Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's first sake podcast. I'm your host, John Puma from the Sake Notes, also the administrator over at the Internet Sake Discord, and the guy on the show who's not a sake samurai.
And I am your host, Timothy Sullivan. I am a sake samurai. I'm also a sake educator, and I'm the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be tasting and chatting about all things sake and doing our very best to make it fun and easy to understand.
Tim, we're marching into February.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, and I wanted to check in on how is your sake resolution going? For those who maybe are a little late to the party here, Tim made a goal to try and get outside of his comfort zone with regard to sake. How's that been going?
Well, it's been going pretty well. And I think having a sake podcast, that helps me to achieve this goal.
All right. Okay. So I should keep making sure that we do episodes on things that are not in our comfort zone. This way you'll try new things.
That's right. I think having to produce a show every week and come up with new and interesting sakes to taste, this definitely helps me to step outside my comfort zone. But I have to tell you, there's been a little bit of a rebound effect too, where when I've been shopping for a sake to drink at home or just enjoy on the weekend, I've been hugging some bottles close to me that are like ones that I really, really, really love to comfort me back. So there's both sides of the coin going on here.
Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Having your happy place is good. But as long as you're being true to the spirit of your resolution and you're going out and still trying the new things on top of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's good.
Yeah. How about you? Your resolution was to buy more locally and support local sake shops. How's that been going for you?
It's been going pretty well. I'm going to be approaching a local place in the near future because I have some ideas about things I'd like them to carry now that I've had conversations with them about what they're able to get. So going to have some chats about what I would buy if they had it and see if I can convince them to stock a little bit more sake. Also, still getting on that bike every day, Tim. Well, not every day. I've learned something the hard way that it's sometimes maybe it's unrealistic to do a really big workout every single day.
Yes.
Your body gets it doesn't like that. It hurts. You get sore after the day after. You're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to do this again? But true to the sake man lifestyle, I'm only taking a single day off every now and again, and then right back on the Peloton. That's it. That's what I'm going for. Tim, if you want to track my progress, you can find me on the Peloton cycling for sake.
Okay, I'll have to take your word about that working out every day things, but other than that, it sounds good.
Yeah, I set a little bit of an unrealistic goal. I'm just refocusing it. So it's just most days I'm getting on there and doing it.
Yeah. Well, John, your resolution was buying more sake locally, and I'm trying to step out of my comfort zone. And that leaves us both in a situation where we're buying a lot of sake, right?
I mean, I am an avid sake drinker. I do have a sake podcast, and that gives me an excuse to buy more sake. So yes, we are avid sake buyers.
I think we buy more sake than the average person on the street.
I mean, if we don't, there's something seriously wrong.
Yeah, well, that got me thinking about how much this costs and how much does sake cost and what's some of the really good bargains that are out there. Where can you find a really good, we're talking imported sake, not domestically made, but imported sake. What are some of the best bargains that you can get without spending too much money?
Well, a wise man once told me that there's no $2 chuck in the sake world.
Was that wise man a sake samurai?
That man might have been a sake samurai, sake educator, and the
founder of the Urban Sake website.
However, that doesn't mean that there's not really great sake out there that is at a bit of a lower price point. There definitely is. There's sake, especially when you find the sake that you're really into. You can find things in your wheelhouse that are going to not hurt the wallet as much.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, maybe we could talk about for a second what impacts the cost of a sake. Like what makes it more expensive and how you can make it less expensive. So there's a few factors that go into that.
Okay. And what can we do apart from maybe buying in bulk?
Well, we can always buy in bulk. Well,
I mean, I always buy in bulk, but that's not the point.
Well, the one factor that is really, I think, the most important for impacting what the final end product cost is going to be for a sake is the rice milling percentage. And this is something we talk about a lot with sake. It influences the classification. But you have to think about it. If you're a sake producer and you buy 1 ton of sake rice from the rice farmer to make your batch of sake, and you decide to polish that rice down to 30% remaining, 70% of what you actually paid for is rice flour and not going to be used for the final product. So you need to buy a lot more to actually make that tank of sake. So this rice milling, how much you polish the rice down, the smaller you go, the sakes get more smooth and elegant, but it has a really concrete impact on the cost of the sake. And if you stop and think about it, I think it makes perfect sense.
It does. But even there, you have exceptions to that rule. You can get sake that has nicely polished rice at a really good price point still. So what else might contribute?
Well, one other thing that can add to the cost of a sake is labor and time. So, for example, you can brew sake in as short as 2 weeks. So the main fermentation period, if you run the fermentation very hot, you produce a lot of alcohol quickly. You can get from point A to point B with that moromi, that fermentation mash, in 2 weeks. Now, the sake that comes out of that process is rougher. But if you bring the temperature down and you ferment for a month or even 40 days, that produces alcohol at a much slower rate. But generally, it comes out smoother and cleaner and more easy drinking. But that's a trade-off for time and the labor to maintain those tanks during that time. So the longer you ferment, that also adds to the end cost as well.
That's an excellent point. So when we were talking about doing this show, did you have a sake in mind, or did you go looking and see like, well, what do I really like, and then try to find something that was kind of in that area?
Well, people ask me all the time, like, what can I get for a good deal, or what do you recommend for someone just getting started? And there's this mental cutoff I have in my mind of $20 or less. So for me, I'm always like, if I want to recommend a true bargain for people, a lot of people buying wine, they expect a $10, $12 bottle of wine to taste really good and just be an everyday, easy drinking wine.
I've had great tasting wines at that price point.
Yeah. And that's the consumer expectation for wine. But when it comes to sake, that, $12 to $18 range is not very well served with imported premium sake from Japan. It's just too far and too expensive, and the economics just don't work out. But I look at that like $18 to $22 range, like right around $20, as the zone that if you can get a really good sake in that price point, that for our world, it may not be a bargain basement drink for everybody, but in the world of imported premium sake, I'd say $18 to $22 is a good deal. And I have a favorite sake that I like to drink that is at the bottom of that range.
And so you found one.
Yeah, I found
one. And this is you already had this kind of in your back pocket.
Yes, this is a sake I've had for a long time, and it's a brand that is well known for being affordable yet delicious.
All right, and I'm gonna have to pry now. What do you have?
All right. Well, this is a brand that I discovered a few years back. It's called Kino-ene. Kino-ene. So the brewery is actually located in Chiba Prefecture, which is just outside of Tokyo, so very close to Tokyo.
Right. No. In fact, I think mostly I hear it referred to as kind of being a suburb of Tokyo. It's kind of like
Yeah.
people who work in Tokyo sometimes live in Chiba. So it's guys, if you're in the tri-state area, it's kind of like New Jersey.
You didn't hear that from me. Yeah, so let me give you a quick rundown for the sake that I got. Now, this is their Junmai sake, and the big standout interesting thing with this sake is that the rice is milled to 80% remaining. And that is a very robust, full-size grain for a premium sake. It's 80% rice milling. The SMV is +3. The acidity is 1.8, so it's a little bit higher. Mm-hmm. And the retail cost is $19 for this sake. And that's
19. So they broke the $20 barrier.
Yes.
That's nice.
And this is a 24-ounce bottle of premium imported sake from Chiba, and it's $19. So I think that's an amazing deal. And we talked a moment ago about the rice milling, and I think the fact that they've milled this to 80%, that helps them achieve that lower price point.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So, John, what have you found on the affordable price range?
Well, I also had a sake in my back pocket for just such an occasion as this. I want to say a while back, Michelle and I were at an izakaya, and we were looking at the sake list and saw something we really didn't recognize, but it was a very low-priced Junmai Ginjo. So we ordered it, and we were shocked at how light and delicious it was. It was going really well with all of our food. And again, very inexpensive. And so that is the sake that I brought around today. It is Homare Tatsu Migura from Homare Shuzo in Fukushima. And this is Gohyakuman Goku milled down to 50%.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, 50% milled. So they're losing half of that Gohyakuman Goku. Mm-hmm. And this sake generally retails for around $22. So I couldn't quite hit the $20 barrier, but I think that $22 for a 50% milled Junmai Ginjo, I think that's really great.
And one other way that breweries can get a lower price point on their end product is to just make a ton of it. If they mass produce their sake, they can get the prices down. And I don't think that's the case for either sake that you and I have brought, but I wanted to mention that as well, that if they like only make a few kinds and they produce vast amounts of it, that's another way to get their prices down.
Well, I don't know if I've had the Junmai from Kinoane, so I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about it.
All right. Well, let's get it in the glass. Okay, looking at it, I see that there's a little bit of color going on. It's a very light straw color. And when a rice grain is milled to 80% remaining, on the outer layers of the rice grain, we have more of the fats and proteins, and the starch is more towards the center. That's true for sake rice in general. But when you don't polish away a lot of those outer layers, you get more of the fats and proteins into the sake, and that can help bring in a little color as well. So we have a little bit of a light straw color here. And let's give it a smell. It has a sweeter smell to it. So light, fruity. It makes me think of like apple skins.
Oh.
Like pear or apple. Like, when you smell an apple before you bite into it, you get that apple skin smell. A little bit of that. It's really, really nice. It makes me think of apple pie too. But, almost like apple juice as well. So there's an appley smell for me.
There's a lot of apple going on. All right.
All right. So it's very, very lovely smell. $19 well spent so far. All right. So I'm going to give it a taste. Yeah, it's good. It's a touch on the sweet side. It tastes very much like it smells. There's a little bit of like an apple or pear flavor. It is relatively clean, simple, straightforward. So I don't think we're going to get a lot of complexity in the flavor. It's really straightforward, but simple, clean, and it tastes really good.
Nice.
But the acidity is 1.8 again, and you really feel that on the finish. So it has a lot of the things I've been describing kind of hint towards sweetness, but that acidity, they raise it up. It's 1.8, which is relatively high, usually between 1.0 and 2.0. So this is on the higher end of what most sakes would be. And it really brings a good sense of balance to that. And you'd think with 80% rice milling that this would be all about like eating a bowl of rice and you'd get nothing but like toasted rice flavors. And this is not the case at all.
At 80%, I think I was expecting like risotto.
Exactly. Yeah, or bibimbap or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's very gently sweet, really balanced, nice acidity. This is an easy drinking, easy sipping sake for $19 a bottle all day. I can drink this all day. Really good.
Excellent. Well, that's nice. I
Yeah.
like to hear that.
Now, John, I'm super interested to hear about your Homare sake from Fukushima. Let us know.
Will do. So let's get this opened up. So this looks a little bit lighter than yours. It's still not completely clear, but it is a tiny bit of like a light, very light straw, we'll say. The aroma is very, very faintly fruity. I'm trying to avoid the gentle wafting comment, but it's there. It's very subtle, very light melon on the nose, perhaps nearby.
Melon adjacent.
And then the flavor, that melon visits again, but the sake is nice and dry. This is the sake meter value on this is 3, so it is almost neutral, but it leans a little bit dry. The acidity is 1.6, so not quite as high as yours, but it's there. It's present. And as we've talked about on the show before, the Gohyaku Mangoku kind of known for a crispness. That because I know this gets used in a lot of Niigata sake, and Niigata is very much known for that. And that's kind of part of where that reputation comes from, is this rice. And this is, it is light. It is a little bit fruity, but there's a certain richness to it, mostly in the finish, but it really, really comes in smooth and gentle. This is very sippable, and I think it'll pair well with some mild foods, like your meats and fishes and stuff like that. This is not the curry special. This is not going to go with chili or your spicy Thai food and stuff like that. But I think your grilled meats are going to get along with this very well, and your same thing with fish. That's what I'm getting out of this here. This is very nice, and again, $22. You can't go wrong. It's wonderful.
And again, that rice milling has such an impact to the cost in general, the raw materials cost. And Gohyaku Mangoku is one of the most used, very standard premium sake rice. So they're not.
I'm guessing that maybe they got a deal on a lot of Gohyaku Mangoku. No, guys, I have actually no idea why why that happened.
Yeah, but that's a great price for a 50% milled sake rice. And it sounds like a great everyday sipper like I got as well.
It is. It is a very sippable, very... I think I've talked about it in the past. I like a sake that I can sit on the couch and sip, and as our recent guest, Monica Samuel, said, accidentally have the whole bottle of.
Whoopsie.
This is that. This fits into that category for me. It's just such a light, easy drinking sake. What is this? This sake pairs well with television. I can just sit on the couch and sip it and watch TV and zone out and just enjoy the day.
This sake pairs well with Queen's Gambit.
There you go. We're gonna like find actual like specific shows. Yeah, I want to say when I sip this, I think of season 3 of Terrace House.
Well, let me ask you this. We've been talking about these affordable but yummy sakes. What are your thoughts on treating yourself to a really expensive sake? And by that, I mean $80 or more.
I'll do it. I'll do it for Christmas. Like I'll buy myself something nice for Christmas. I think most recently I did for this past Christmas, I bought myself a bottle of the the Divine Droplets, Yamagata based Junmai Daiginjo that uses the Shizuku method, which is we talked about this a little bit in our series on sake production. But this is basically where the Baromi is actually in bags and it just literally drips down and that's the sake. And it was decadent and light and aromatic and delicious. Do I think that the gap maybe was worth it? Probably not. But it is treating yourself, right, Tim, after all.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I love to drink expensive sake. It is so fun. You can achieve flavors and texture profiles with certain methods that do inherently just cost a little bit more money to produce and achieve. But the question really is, do you want to drink that every day? Like if money was no object, would you want to drink like this 10-year aged Junmai Daiginjo every day? I don't know.
Well, if you're talking about the Junmai Daiginjo, I think you're talking about the answer might be yes. Because it's amazing.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. No, I mean, I think variety is the spice of life, and you can't buy the cheapest sake in the room every day. You can't buy the most expensive sake in the room every day. You need balance, and I think trading off between getting these real delicious bargains every now and again, and for that special occasion, I couldn't agree with you more. Like for Christmas or anniversary or birthday, treating yourself to a bottle that's a little more expensive and just really savoring it, like that's fantastic as well.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong at all with finding a nice, very inexpensive sake that punches above its price point. And I think we both did a nice job of finding some really tasty stuff this week that you don't have to wait till Christmas to get a bottle of Kino-ene or this Tatsumigura. Although I think the secret's out on the sake. It's getting a little hard to find.
Yeah.
But it is quite delicious, quite good.
Yeah, mine was really good as well.
What about food pairings for yours? What do you think?
I think given the weight, it's a little bit on the lighter side. It has a little bit of that fruitiness going on. I think that I'd like to pair this more with the kind of the appetizer side of things. I'm thinking of like your salad courses, your steamed veggie courses, those types of things. I think might pair a little bit better with this versus grilled or charcoal grilled meats, things like that, because it does have a little bit of that hint of sweetness to it, a little bit of that apple aromatic going on. I like it more. Like if you think about it, for me, there's notes of apple here. Would I rather have apple chopped on a salad, or would I rather have apple chopped on a piece of charcoal grilled chicken? I'd rather have it on the salad. So that's how the pairing works for me. I think that the flavors and overall aromas here would pair really well with those lighter vegetable driven dishes like salad.
Sake is a little higher priced than other things. Sake is, as for the reasons you mentioned earlier, sort of inherently more expensive than a lot of other comparable beverages here in the States. And it's nice to be able to find a way to have really great sake experiences at these lower price points. I hope that this helps people kind of go out and find their own maybe great sakes out there, great sake bargains out there. I'm hoping that we get some of that.
Absolutely. I hope these sakes can work as a stepping stone. And when you get into sake as a hobby, once you begin to spend $20 a bottle, then you can move to $25, $30. when it becomes a hobby and you get value out of that drink, it brings value to your life and your enjoyment of food. It's really worth it. And it does cost a little bit more than perhaps a comparable bottle of wine. But I know when I was first getting into it, the value it brought to my dining experiences and my times with friends was really worth it. And that's what captured me and got me really into sake.
So, Tim, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Well, if you want to get in touch with me, you can always reach me through urbansake.com, which is my website. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Urban Sake.
Oh, keeping it very simple. I like that.
Yes, all unified. How about you, John?
I'm a little more diverse. So a lot of my sake stuff goes at the sake notes. So Instagram and Twitter, things like that. And my more personal day-to-day goings on are John Puma NYC. And the reason I list these separately is because a lot of people, when they want to shout me out about the podcast, they seem to go to either one of the two accounts. And so I'm kind of saying like, okay, normally the sake stuff goes here. Normally the personal stuff goes there. But really, you can follow me on either or both, and we'll chat.
Okay, so if I want to slide into your DMs, now I know what to do.
My DMs are closed, sir.
Oh, gosh. I'll try. I won't take that personally.
My DMs are restricted to friends, so
Okay.
you're there.
All right. All right. Wow. Well, this was really fun. Now I'm super excited to go out and find some more bargains. And if any of our listeners find a good sake bargain that they love, let us know. Well, I want to thank our listeners so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this show on sake bargains. If you'd like to support Sake Revolution, one way you could really help us out would be to take a couple of minutes and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. It's honestly one of the best ways for us to help get the word out about our show.
And if you can't do that, maybe you should just go and tell a friend directly to listen to our show. And then have your friend subscribe wherever he or she downloads their podcasts. And then you should do the same thing. This way, every week when we upload a new show, it will magically show up on your device of choice, and you will not miss a single episode, which is exactly how we like it.
And as always, to learn more about any of the topics or the specific sakes that we tasted in today's episode, be sure to visit our website, Sake Revolution, for all the detailed show notes.
And if you have a sake question that you need answered, if you have sake bargains that you think we need to try, we want to hear from you. Reach out to us. The email address is feedback@sakerevolution.com. So until next time, please remember to keep drinking sake and kanpai.